For joining us, episode 15 of the Dumb and Drummer podcast. Our guest today is Justin Nebe. How you doing, man?
Hey, good. Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Happy to have you on. Let's kick it right off here. For those of the listeners and viewers who don't know, who are you and why are you awesome?
Well, I don't think I'm awesome. Of course, everyone's a legend in their own mind, I assume. Uh, but my passion for drums, it grew and it grew and it became this thing where I was in search of the most ultimate snare drum. And I'm like, this thing's $5,000 or something like that. And I'm like, nobody can afford that. So I want to just make my own and then provide that to drummers. And so that's what I did. And hopefully that makes me awesome one day in some people's eyes, but I think I'll always have to work on that. when I
I
look
think
back.
anybody who watches your or keeps an eye on your social media pages would know that you're awesome. Like your products are
Thank you.
absolutely stunning. Yeah, I think what really did it for me was the lugs. I think that's what
Okay.
really sets you apart is the all the different lugs, like the hexagonal, like the shapes and stuff like that, and kind of how they
Yeah.
offset the patina of the different snare, and also there's just so many people that like the snare is like everything. You know, there's some drummers that are like, oh, it's my kick pedal or whatever, but like for most of us, it's like if the snare isn't like exactly like I don't love it, then
Right.
that just messes up the whole experience. So I love the approach. What was the what was the moment that you're like, yeah, I think I'm gonna make this like a real thing. Like I'm gonna make this a legit business and move forward with it.
A couple of my buddies, I think, they just kind of pushed me. They said, I guess I started making a shell around 2018 by hand. And my buddies were like, that's awesome. You should make a company just out of the blue. And I thought of it, before, but it never really came to mind until a couple of my drummer buddies said, hey, let's do this. These things are awesome, are going to be awesome. And so that's how it kind of rolled out.
That's cool. That's cool. So were your buddies your first customers?
I wish, right? Uh,
They should have been.
I, I would give them snares, I mean, that's how much I love them. But at the time, it was just focusing on getting a product put together and something that, somebody would like to play.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So as far as the inspiration, like do you follow a lot of other like snare drum makers or drum creators for inspiration for your projects?
Most definitely. And it's been a rabbit hole of awesomeness, I would like to say. As soon as I started my company in 2018, I started an Instagram account. And since then, I've grown, I guess, organically through Instagram. And, it was like, okay, this drum maker's making this company's doing this, and like this company, this, and there's so many drum companies now. And I'm like, gosh, I feel so small, and on top of that, I have a small niche of the market. I mean, mostly thicker metal snare drums. Not most of the drummers are into wood. I don't do wood yet.
Mm.
Um, but there's a lot of drum companies out there now, and I'm finding more and more every day, which is even that makes me feel better because the industry's alive, and it's growing.
Yeah. Well, and especially like COVID, I feel like people are spending a lot more time looking at what they have so that there's like that
Right.
psychological thing. Like, I think we need to like do that addition on the house and we need to renovate. And I'm sitting here staring at, my work from home setup. And so I want to beef that up, because I feel like it's inferior.
Yes.
And they go to their studio and they're like, well, shit. Now all this time to play drums, or they go in their drum room and they're like, no, I want to make these dreams a reality. There's a question that's not on the list here. You have a drum kit that you made, right? I mean, you made all the drums.
Yes, I did. I guess I'll turn the camera.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get a look at that beast. Oh my good lord! And that's all brass, right?
I have the rack in the way here. I have like the third kit.
No, you're
It
fine.
is
I can get a good look at it.
brass, solid brass, mostly 3 mil. Um, I'm gonna try, if the wife lets me, to build a mirror kit out of copper. Same
Oh
kit
my gosh,
out of copper, and then do
bro!
that. But yeah, I mean, this is her. I don't know what you call it. I love the Porter and Davies, by the way. They're not paying me for that plug. Thing kicks ass.
The Throne.
Yeah. Oh
Nice.
man, it's awesome. And then this is a 14x8, 6 mil beast.
Fat boy.
That's a 12 mil. Yeah, and that's about it, man.
Nice.
So I'm working on a couple things. I'm working on. This is a mirror polish 13x6.5 stainless. I have the cast bronze 14x8 stainless lugs. I have a 14x6.5, 4.5 mil brass, and then this is a full built snare now. It's 5 1/4 cast bronze hoops, brass shell. Everyone's seen the flame snare.
Yep.
Or this one. And I have a high polished cast bronze with cast bronze hoops here I'm working on later.
Wow.
So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. Oops, you there?
Yep.
A lot of stuff going on. I'm getting some orders. So yeah, it's fun, man.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Yeah, and I bought the snare from you. It was about a year ago, I think.
Right.
And my thing was it was very similar to what you said about like, oh, this snare is $5,000, whatever. I was looking at the Tama Starphonic Copper, and everybody raves about those Starphonic snares and stuff. And the price tag on that I think is 700 or 800 or something like that. And they're always out of stock, and stuff like that. And I'm just like, man, I really want to find. I think I had followed you on Instagram because of our connection through like Drum Flip or something. I'm not really sure how we kind of cross paths, but these things happen. You just cross paths with people on social media. But it was really enlightening to have the conversation of like, okay, what exactly are you looking for? Because I feel like people are like, well, I want that crack, I want that. It's like, what do you mean? Like, do you want high range? Do you want mid range? Do you want warmth? Do you want resonance? Do you want because that could all be like, and I'm sure better than most how those little intricacies can affect the overall sound, like the type of hoops you use, or you're saying 6 mil, 3 mil. Before we had that conversation, I was like, I have no idea. So I'm just gonna skip ahead a little bit. This question's for later, but for those people that are saying those things, how would you suggest that they choose their snare with all those different options available?
Yeah, it's almost endless. I'm doing a 3 mil titanium next, which is going to be my first. It's 99% pure titanium, so that's going to be a fun one. But the biggest difference I think in shell choice is copper is a softer, warmer metal. Now, if you go with the 3 mil copper, it's going to be, which you have, it's going to tend to be drier and not as resonant as if you were to get a 6 mil copper, because it's just a thicker, more dense shell. Mm-hmm. Same material, but a lot more shell. And same with brass and bronze and all the other metals. The thicker you go, I wish I had a shell I could knock for you. I mean, the stainless is stainless and it speaks for itself. But
if you knock on it, you can hear like it'll resonate more.
Right, it rings, and even when I hold up a cast bronze shell, same size, depth, and all that as a brass shell, the brass shell will ring 10 times longer. I did that for a customer yesterday. I have a 14x8. It's a 5 mil cast bronze, and I have a 6 mil brass. But the way it's done, I mean, the cast material has air voids. I mean, that's its nature, right? But when you come to, the sheet metal, I guess, is what I use mostly for most of my snares. I roll and weld my shells, and that's another thing in the drum world where I wish people would get over is like, well, it's rolled and it has a seam. I said, okay, well, you can't see or feel my seams. It's TIG welded with the huge Dynasty 800 TIG welder. I mean, it's ridiculous. It uses its own material and melts the shell together with its own material, essentially making it a seamless piece of material. So that's another thing I like to tell drummers, and get over the cast thing. I mean, it's great, but it's not. You're going to get the same sound, if not better, out of a rolled and welded shell than a cast shell. That's my argument.
So let's walk that back a little bit, because this reminds me of the first conversation that we had when we were talking about what snare I was going to buy, and it was like this jargon, a lot of the jargon's over my head. So explain the difference between cast and like TIG welded, rolled shell, whatever, like the difference between those two things.
Sure. So I assume people, when they say bell bronze, they're meaning like a sand cast shell or a centrifugal type cast shell, where it is heated up, melted, and then poured into its form, right? So it's not rolled and welded. Now, when you roll and weld a piece of sheet metal and then melt it together with its own material, isn't that essentially making it a cast form?
Yeah, I mean, it's really close, but I guess it almost sounds like you're saying people are like snobby about it. Yeah, they're like, well, if it's not cast, then it's not going to sound like nearly as good.
Right. That's blah, blah. The stigma in the drum industry. I feel that people need to get over that, because, you know, put one of my snare drums between your legs and play it. And then put a cast shell between your legs. They're gonna be different. And yeah, I guarantee you're gonna like mine better.
Yeah, for sure. And then the millimeters, the thickness. I know that definitely impacts the price. And I know there's a lot of talk right now of materials. There's a shortage on like copper right now. I think I've heard like cymbal companies and one of the local snare companies here were talking about how they're gonna maybe have to raise their prices, because I don't know if have you been impacted by that at all?
Most definitely. I think, you know, John at Duluth, I get my hoops from John, and his prices went up, you know, so basically $100 more a set, which, you know, that's, and I'm getting the same deal everyone gets, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm you know, on top of anything, but, you know, it's reflective in the cost of metal. I mean, metal's going up, and that's cool, maybe, you know, because my snare drums then increase in value.
Yeah, that's an awesome way of looking at it, actually. So back to the choosing the snare. If someone just came to you and was like, "Hey, I love your stuff, but I don't know anything about like the engineering of the drum. Like I kind of know what I want it to sound like, whatever." How would that consultation go? Would you ask them about like who they want to sound like, or other drums they like the sound of, or the style of music they were playing, or like what would be some good questions to ask?
You hit them all right there. I would ask, you know, when you hit a snare, what sound do you want to come out? Do you want a pingy sound? Do you want a pod? Do you want a more splashy? Do you want a lower tone, higher tone tuning, what have you? That's probably going to be my first question. Then I'm going to get into who's your, you know, music. Who do you like as drummers, you know, start. And then that'll give me a good sense of, you know, what do they want in front of them, and then what influences them.
Okay.
Secondly. So, yeah. Hopefully
Go ahead.
No, hopefully that covered it. I mean, there's so many things you could ask. I mean, when you start talking to drummers, I talked to a guy yesterday, a really good guy, for an hour and a half, and it was just fantastic. And it was about the whole cast rolled thing. And he was like, well, I'd rather just do cast. And I said, you know, I'll 100% satisfaction. You don't like it, I'll buy it back from you. I'll make you a new one or whatever. And so, you know, he liked that idea. So.
Yeah, I guess the one thing, because with my setup, I have the free floater, and then I had a bunch of shells and then just sold them. So I have the copper one, which is awesome for like drier, warmer stuff, and then I have a brass shell. I think it's a 3 mil. I messaged you back and forth a little bit. It's pretty thin.
What company is it?
I got it from a guy in Arizona. I don't even know, honestly.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah. It's super thin, and it's great for like the metal stuff when I really want to open the drum up. But having those two options, I feel like that's all I need. But I guess my only other question is, if someone was choosing between a 3 mil and 6 mil, when would you recommend the thicker shell?
I think when somebody says they want more resonance, they want that shell thing. I also offer, very rare occasions, does somebody say, "Oh, I don't want my lugs to touch the shell," and I say, "Okay, well, I'm not going to put rubber between the lugs and the shell."
Oh,
a bushing of sorts, which deadens the shell. It reduces the resonance. And so, which most of my application is direct metal on metal. Same goes for the tension rod into the lug. Most companies are putting the little dilly wops that move around freely, which
Yeah.
move around when you play, right? My philosophy is straight into the lug. Everything's tight, one piece of metal, except for
Yeah.
where the head touches the shell. And so, where was I going with this? It's just kind of how I argue. I offer the bushings. I don't do rubber. I was saying I do buffalo leather between the lugs and the shell if somebody wants it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you
And
just
then
found that to be like like getting a truer sound from the drum or something?
no, I just didn't want to put rubber or plastic. I wanted it. A&F does leather. Hopefully, I didn't steal a patent from them or anything. That kind of gave me the idea, and I was like, well, it's not noticeable. They have noticeable leather, which is awesome. But
Yeah, there's actually quite a few arguments about drum wraps too, which I think is interesting. That because I have my kit wrapped and I took all the rubber bushings. I always called them gaskets or something, but they're probably not the right word. Yeah. But what goes in between the lug and the shell, and it is funny because people will be like, "Well, you wrapped your drums, man. You just fucked up the resonance forever." And it's like, are you serious right now? Like first of all, I tune my drums very well. It's a point of pride. So my toms are very ringy. I mean, I choose the right heads and I tune them in the right pitches and the right ranges to get full resonance. And if you're telling me that wrapping it really makes that big of a difference, so I think it's along the same vein. But I think to your point earlier, like when you sit down, you want it to feel right too. And if you're like, this metal on metal's like irritating me or whatever, then you can just mitigate that by putting the leather on it or putting whatever. But yeah, I guess it's just a personal preference.
Right, and that's not even, most of them aren't even worried about the sound, how it changes the sound. They're worried about the lugs touching the shell for some reason. So
because they might like loosen themselves or scratch or I don't know enough to scratch.
That's another thing, my lugs don't move. There's a thing people think that if you do single-ended lugs, they're going to pull up, right? Mm-hmm. They don't move, never. And if they do, make a new drum, which they never have. So
yeah, no one's ever asked for a new drum because their lugs had issues or something. Yeah. So as far as I want to circle back to you said you're not doing wood yet, but would you start soon, or are there plans to integrate that?
I think so. And what I would want to do then is probably come up with like my lugs, but like maybe a tube lug design.
Okay.
Because with wood, the lugs will move, right? I think if you put metal directly on a piece of wood that are single-ended lugs, it's gonna pull up with just the nature of wood being softer. I haven't tried it yet, so that would be the first thing. The second thing would be I would be really choosy about the type of wood and the construction of the shell. I would want it to be a seamless shell. I would want it to be carved out of a trunk, or
wow.
Like there's a couple of drum companies out there. Hovland Drum Company, I think Lingnum Drums does one. So very few guys do it, and I've asked them like, "Hey, man, can I buy shells from you?" So I haven't been yet motivated to make a tube lug for that reason, even though the idea is cool for metal drums. So wood is kind of one of those things. Stave drums fall apart. Ply drums are just ply drums, and give me a good argument. And another reason why is because wood's really temperamental. Once wood does its thing, you can't manipulate it anymore. With metal, you can get in there, reform it. You nick a bearing edge. I guess you could do that with wood too, but
be a lot harder.
Metal's just easier to play with, I think, and more fun.
I just don't like wood snares anymore. There's not for me. and it took a little bit. I had the African mahogany free floating shell, and played around with acrylic a little bit, and once you get like And I think I sent you a message when that happened. Once I was cycling through all the shells, and then I put the copper back on. That's when you really know. You really need to do side by side comparisons of stuff because it's so easy to be like, well, my drum is so great and it's perfect, and I got the it's exactly the same sound. Well, why don't you bring it in to the show? Like I brought my snare to Guitar Center one time and set it up right next to.
Yeah.
It was a pork pie acrylic, 13x7, the pig light. And
Yep.
I put that right next to a Tama SLP maple, the
Okay.
G maple snare, and
Right.
it was like 2 hits, and I was like trade. It was like no brainer. So I mean, and that I feel like that's the same thing for the copper and the brass. It's just like they're just so much better.
Yeah, man. And plus, when you play it on a kit, which is mostly wood, it stands out more. It's that crack you want. It's in recording. The studio engineers, they want to get that through, and it sure does pop through. But then when you make a full kit out of brass, I haven't like recorded with it or anything, but I think it sounds great. In my
Yeah.
memories.
I actually have questions about that too because making all brass drums, like I know Danny Carey uses a bass drum that's made out of melted cymbals.
Right.
And
His
the
whole kit.
thing weighs like 120 pounds or something like that.
Yep.
Um, you have another kit that's wood, right? In the same studio?
Right. I have two more kits. One
Okay.
Babinga and then the reference kit. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so my question is, for the kick drum specifically, what qualities of the brass kick do you like, or what qualities stand out of that kick drum compared to the Babinga?
Oh, it's hard to say. I would just say they're both 20x20s. I made it off that kit because I like to sit lower. I like to have my toms, right here,
Flat, yeah.
and it just kind of. I use 3/8 inch thick brass hoops, so the hoops are like 15 pounds each. So the drum is about 100 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
It kind of resonates more. I had to put a pillow in it. I put a pillow in the Tama. Actually, in the Tama, it's just one of those little kick things that they sell at the store.
Okay.
But I put a pillow in this one, and I think I have the reso head free. There's nothing touching it. So it's hard to explain unless you get it under the mic or you get in here and you hit the kick drums.
Okay. Subtle.
Subtle. Yeah, it's hard to. I'm not good at explaining that at all. But they sound killer. Like when you get on it, it's just like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think maybe it's different musical applications too. Like you don't want to go to like a R&B or like singer songwriter gig and have an all brass kit. I mean, unless you like
Right.
tamed it down a little bit. But like in a live situation, oh my gosh, like having really
Yeah.
open traditional, crash cymbals, that are all shiny and ringy and powerful, and the same thing with the drums and stuff like that. Like definitely. But I just had those questions because I don't know if I'll ever even own any other brass drums. So it's interesting. Like if you say a brass snare, oh yeah, that's pretty common. But like brass kits are not common, and I've actually never played on a metal kit either.
Yeah.
I don't, but I like warmth in my toms, so I have a different philosophy on that than the snares. But metal kits also intrigue me, so it's kind of cool that you have those different colors you can play with.
And that's why I'm going to do the copper one next because it's warmer. It's going to be the toms. I do fully rounded bearing edges, so that kind of warms it up a bit too. And
Nice.
I built this kit mainly to take to shows, before the pandemic and all that stuff, to take the shows. So when it sits there, people are like, "God, look at that kit!" Hey, it's Danny Carey's kit, which I guess it does resemble a little bit. But I mean, there's not many others out there that look like that or this. So hopefully, I'm not, offending any trademarks. Good Lord,
No.
but yeah, it's a passion, and hopefully the next kit's even better. I think I'm going to do full polish on the copper, unless somebody tells me differently.
Oh, as opposed to just the natural brown patina type thing, you make it really shiny. You mean?
I think I'm going to do polished shells with blackened hardware.
That would look fucking sick, man. And it's cool because you're actually talking about the copper is like the middle of the road sound wise between metal. It's not gonna be as aggressive as brass, but it'll still have characteristics that you can't get in wood. But I think it's like drinking wine, man. I mean, or
Oh yeah.
or drinking whiskey or whatever. Like if you don't care, you just drink it and you're like, I mean, okay, what is this? It tastes good or it tastes like shit or whatever. But you're like, if you think all bourbons are created equal, you're wrong. Like,
Yeah.
and you can literally go and sample so many, and you're gonna have a different experience with all of them. And that's just like good drums, and you can't to your point before, you can't describe. Oh, here are the 10 things that I noticed about my brass kick that I don't notice about my bebinga kick. Maybe you'll discover those things as the years go by because they're subtle. But that's a really cool characteristic of what we do.
Yeah. And, the head change too is everyone knows you change a head on a drum, it's going to sound different. So
Oh yeah, different heads, different beaters, different
yeah,
sticks, all that stuff factors in for sure.
and it's like any other hobby. I think I already said that you can go to the extreme in mountain biking, and I think I'm at the extreme level in drumming and well, making drums. I hope, offering the most supreme product, giving it my all, 100% satisfaction guaranteed type thing. So, you know, that's my passion and philosophy, and I hope it grows. You know, let me know when you want your second snare. I was going to say, buy 5, get 1 free. Is that good marketing? I don't know.
Buy 5 snares, get one free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah. Buy 9, get the 10th one free.
So, yeah.
There you go. That works. That's perfect. So as far as the whole collection, what is your biggest point of pride as far as like what snare is your favorite that you've created for somebody?
For somebody, oh man, I I don't know. I've had a couple polished drums I've done. I like to argue that all my snares that I make are my favorite, and which is why I offer the 100% satisfaction guarantee. Because if you don't like it, hey, I'll buy it back from you. Because I
Yeah,
like
you're
it.
like, I like it. I'll take it.
Yeah, I told my wife, I'm like, babe, I don't want to sell anything. I'm just gonna make all my drums and then keep them. She's like, you're crazy. So, but I think the 3 mil Murder of Crows has been really popular. Just sound wise, it just is. It's 3 mil brass, and then the 4.5 mil brass has been really popular too. And a lot of guys, gals, drummers nowadays are going for the 6 mils, and so it's changing. It's always fluid. I'm doing titanium next, like I said. So
Yeah, that's exciting. I like what characteristics are like what makes titanium unique.
when I touched it, when I felt this sheet of metal, I wish we could go out to the garage. I think my son might be taking a nap, but not in the garage. If I leave, the dog barks and whatnot.
Garage
So,
slash baby room slash workshop.
no, actually, the baby's room right here. But
Oh,
if I
gotcha.
leave, my door is really loud. Anyway, so titanium, it's kind of like aluminum mixed with stainless that feels like it's cast. And it feels
Oh.
airy, it's lighter, but it's stronger, right? They
I
say it's
love
more
me some aluminium. I almost said like I'm
aluminum. Yeah.
European, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's too dry for me. But I have really enjoyed like there was a time that I enjoyed like acrylites. I'm not really a fan of them anymore. They kind of sound weak
Well,
to me.
it's a thin metal, right? You're talking about a 1.2 millimeter shell, and with aluminum, there's thousands of types of aluminum out there. Or I don't know, maybe there's hundreds, but that in itself is just mind-boggling. And when you talk about titanium, I know there's at least grade 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm using grade 2, which is allegedly 99% pure titanium.
Okay.
So I wanted to take the approach of more pure versus stronger, harder, which is the grade 5, which is way more expensive, by the way, and has a lot more content of aluminum. And so, who wants to pay more money for more aluminum when you could just play aluminum, right? So
Yeah.
that was cool to me, finding that the 99% pure titanium was cheaper, and for our application drums,
Yeah.
we'll see how it sounds. Yeah,
And you said it's going to be a 6 mil,
3 mil.
3 mil, and then you're gonna do a big boy like 8x14.
He wants a 7x14, and then
Okay.
I got a bigger sheet, so I'm doing two more 6.5x14s and a 4x14, unless you tell me you want one now, a different size.
I love the sales pitch. I went to A&F
Yeah, I saw
drum.
that. So awesome.
It
Lucky.
really was cool, and Chris was so like nice about the whole process because I almost pulled the trigger on a 6.5x14 brass, and then I ended up just buying this other brass shell. But it was like, I mean, it's expensive, but I mean, like, I don't really consider it like, it's not really like, it's not like going off and buying something that just gonna, that doesn't matter, or going and gambling money at the casino or something like that. Like, that's literally something I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. And so, I mean, like, the price it's arbitrary to me if I want it. But the one that stood out to me, there's two drums that stood out to me that I would probably get a drum from you later on down the road in these sizes. Was there was a 5x12 brass Rude Boy. That thing had enough power and volume. You could take it to like a metal gig and it would be fine. And I mean,
Wow.
it literally had so much sound coming out of the this little thin shell.
How
And then
big
they
was
had, I don't know.
it? Okay.
I don't know that. And the other one was I think it was a 5.5x15.
Wow. Yeah. Nice.
And I was like, holy shit. I mean, it was cool to play I'd never played a 15-inch snare drum. I'd never even seen one made, one even available. But that was, they do a lot of copper, brass, bronze. They work with Sabian and stuff. And it was just
Right.
nice to experiment with this. So, and then they also do shallower bass drums. They do their thickest bass drum, if you say thick, I don't know, it's like long, but I don't know, is they're all 14-inch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not like 20s. They're like cut off. I think there's some 18s as well. But
Well,
they had a
that's the sound
26. What's that?
I mean, isn't that their sound? Like, isn't that the sound they're trying to
Yeah,
tailor? Right.
it's the it's like it's like a big it's a big sound, but it's super gated. Like if you have a
Right.
24x20 kick drum, I mean, it's gonna be a lot of booming. I'm thinking like
Yeah.
concert band. You got that big ass,
Yeah.
concert bass drum type of thing. But with the 14, you get, and the portability is awesome. It looks like a huge snare drum. They just set
Yeah.
up, vertically. But yeah, for those sizes. So it's just like there's so many possibilities, and I feel like there's just people that they don't know, they don't even explore that. They don't explore, well, I can't
Right.
play a 5.5, depth because I play this style, and it's like that doesn't matter. If you can make a 5.5 depth snare drum that's louder than any other snare drum I've ever played, or that's more resonant than any other snare drum I've played. So that's just the beauty of it. But yeah, I that's why I was curious about the titanium, because I'm like, I don't, who else makes titanium snares? I mean, does anybody do it right now?
I think so. I mean, there's a couple guys doing Inconel, which I want to get into Inconel.
Inca?
Inconel?
Incanel, is that a metal?
Inconel is like one of the hardest metals that it's really hot in this machine shop industry. It's used, highly used.
Oh
It,
wow, you're gonna make a snare out of that?
I think Kooten Customs drums. I'm giving a lot of plugs to these drum companies. I don't know. It's all good because it's a family. But he's making an Inconel snare. But I haven't done Inconel yet, and it's probably something I'm going to get into. But titanium's next, and shoot, I've done naval. I have a naval bronze shell. I have a silicon bronze shell. So I'm just waiting for the next guy to be like, hey, let's do
This metal.
yeah or whatever. So
Well, I would like to see, you should put some videos on your Instagram of you working in the shop, because honestly, because the shell you got from someone else, and I know some of that is the case. You order it, but I would like to see the process of you actually rolling the shells as well, like for
so
others.
you saying you got my shell from what'd you say?
No, the copper shell you ordered
Right.
it from another person, but did you roll that shell yourself?
Yeah, that show I did. Yeah, that's my.
Oh, that's your. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So you do roll all of them.
Yeah, so I have to contract out the thicker stuff. I can't roll 6 mil stainless or brass. That stuff is.
Gotcha.
I don't have $25,000 slip roll machine. I mean, you really need. It's like 15 feet long.
Oh my
I don't have
gosh.
the space. Yeah, and so I contract out a lot of stuff, but that doesn't make me less. I think of a drum company because one day I'll have. Hopefully, I'll grow big enough to be able to buy those machines
Yeah.
and pay less for my materials and stuff, and then offer that discount to my customers. Hopefully, so. But yeah, no. So I have somebody roll my thicker stuff and TIG weld because the TIG welder is $15,000
Oh my
in
gosh.
order to be able to do that seamless approach, which is what I like. When you hand sand that weld down, there's no weld there. You don't see, you don't feel it, and that's the idea.
Yeah.
Maybe
When
on
I
the
when I look
inside,
at my shell, I don't see the seam.
you can't see
Like
or feel
I have to
anything.
like really look where it is. Like it's very, but on the brass shell, it's very obvious. But I mean, it's just the difference. I
Really?
mean, I'm not like irritated about it or anything. But the brass one
Oh,
is more noticeable, much more noticeable than yours.
yeah. My brass is even on brass. It's easier to make it disappear. Just gone, seriously gone. So I mean, uh, that's my take on it. And yeah,
Yeah, I would love to see some of those videos though, man. That's awesome. Like the
I know
behind
I'm
the
going to do
scenes
that.
in the garage. Like, hey, that's I know that's really popular on like TikTok and stuff like that. But just to like how it's made is
Yeah,
you see the beautiful finished product, but
takes a while.
no one knows the time and money and expertise and all the all the
Yeah,
nuances that it takes to get that finished product.
yeah. I mean, just for the lugs, just really quick. I don't know how long you have, but I get it off the machine. I have to deburr it with Scotch Brite. But then I hit it with at 600 grit each level, each part of the lug, I guess, 600 grit until all the machining crap is off of it, so it's really smooth. Then I bring it over. Um, I brasso it. I clean it with brasso and a toothbrush. I clean it with soap and water, and then I alcohol it. So I degrease it, and then I patina it or do whatever other application to each lug. And a set of lugs can take me a couple days, 2 or 3 days if I'm dedicated. Yeah,
And
it'd be
that's what I was saying at the very beginning is that really, in my opinion, sets you apart from all
thank
the
you.
other companies because like to your earlier point, like there are so many people making snare drums.
Yeah,
There's so many independent companies. So like how do you aesthetically stand out? The lug process. I would like to see, just like a video or something of the start to finish there because there's so many options with the shapes. And I know I think you sent me
yeah.
a picture one time. You're like, are you interested in any of these designs? And it was like a half a dozen different
Yeah,
designs.
I have 3 different lug designs and 4 different hoop designs to choose from. So, and then I have a larger lug size that I like to provide too. So my standard's 3/4 inch outer diameter lug, and then now I'm offering like a 7/8 inch lug, which drummers have been jumping on. They're like, yeah, I want those. And
Yeah.
so that's an upgrade. And then I ask if you want machine tension rods, bronze, brass, stainless, whatever, to match. So, I mean, that's also available.
Yeah, there was like a custom snare that I heard about, and I don't my brain is not working very well today, but somebody had put like abalone in the middle of the tension rod. Do you know what I'm talking about? The drum I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think you're talking about Cherry Hill drums.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He did that.
yeah.
That was another guess. He was
He,
like, yeah, and he makes the everything by hand or whatever. And I was like, that's
yep,
insane to have
and it's
that attention to
beautiful.
detail on the tension rods.
Yeah, I mean the Tentrons. He's the guy that makes those really killer drum keys and stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone, I've got
Yep.
a couple.
I got one.
Um,
Yeah. Some sitting
yeah.
over on the counter. Yep.
So that's another idea that I would love to do. I actually want to do some diamond inlays in the end of my lugs. That would be sick.
Okay. You need to do that immediately.
You think
Because,
so?
because yeah, because that's so dope, and it's like for people that want flash,
Yeah.
your
On
drum will
stage.
literally be sparkling at the gig, and and people will be looking at it like, oh my gosh, like it's already shiny, but now it's got this
Yeah. It
different.
might not be diamonds. I mean, I'd probably do like moissanite or something.
I think I'd want some diamonds, man. Because I mean, I have the chrome, so the chrome's already going to shine, but it's
Yeah,
not going to sparkle like a diamond would.
true. Yeah, that
So
would be pretty crazy.
that would be super dope. But yeah, the Cherry Hill. I've always wanted to try one of their snares, one of his snares as well. And I know he's built his own kit. He built a wood kit recently, so it's just cool to see like independent companies evolve and just start to try out different stuff. Like I guess this is a good thing to wrap up on. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to, like, ideas that you want to test out, or anything that you'll be doing like in the upcoming year?
Man, I just not really. Just I think we hit everything. I'm going to the Las Vegas Drum Show
Nice.
in March 2022 or whatever. And then that's really it, man. I don't have anything crazy going on. Just want to be able to make some more drums for people. More orders is good.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, March of next year, you'll be in Vegas. You'll have your
Yep.
booth set up and everything. Cool. So no new products or anything that you want to showcase at the booth, or any upcoming things to keep an eye out for?
Well, I might start making some of those dingy things. What do you call those little cup chimes or?
Oh yeah, like little ice bells or whatever.
Yeah, VK does them.
Nice.
Yeah, so I might do something like that with my drum logo on it. Simple, nothing too fancy, and then customizations as it will. And then I'm starting to have my name put on my hoops, Nebe drums. Nice and subtle. What else? I'm going to be, hopefully I'm going to be partnering up with Air, Oil, and Lead. He's on Instagram. He does airbrushings, and hopefully I can get a couple shells out to him. I want to get these polished shells out to him so he can do really killer, like he does some really killer like skulls that are flying through, like
sick.
The black. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing I'm going to start doing. I'm going to be sending some shells out to John Aldridge to get hand engraved with something custom to my company and something crazy. So that's actually coming soon. So
can people send you shells just for engraving? Or are you able to offer that?
Okay, so I'm not engraving, so I'm going to send my shells out to John Aldridge, who does he's the guy who did the Black Beauty up there, the 100th anniversary.
That's like I would love to get something like that done, man. Like honestly, like I'm not in the market for another snare drum right now, because what I have is so functional for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I would love to get me some engraving on there, dude. That would make my shells look like the one you did with the junkyard patina, the copper engraving on it. Oh,
actually, yeah, exactly. If you want,
clutch.
Well, you can send it to John Aldridge. I mean, I wouldn't like charge you. I guess if I had a drum shell made for my company and it was whatever, but you could definitely commission John. Anyone can commission John to do a shell. Right now, he has my 100th anniversary Black Magic, the one that's laser etched with all the like florals. He's outlining that etching. Nice. But he can do whatever you want. He does so many things. I'm sure you've heard of him.
The name sounds familiar.
He's REO Speedwagon's drum tech.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it was. Is there a Craig Aldridge that's also a drummer? I feel like there's another Aldridge musician.
Maybe.
Coming to mind. I'm not sure if he's a drummer or not. But yeah, I'll definitely check him out. And that's is his Instagram. What's his Instagram handle?
John Aldridge.
Drum Aldridge?
Scratcher. His Instagram is at Drum Scratch.
Drum Scratcher?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely check that out, because that's a whole nother level of what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Visually, like that finishing touch. If you really want to make it stand out and you really want to have a unique drum, get some engraving on it. Or I didn't even think about the airbrushing.
Yeah, well, I saw it and I was like, that's awesome. I'm going to apply it to a shell. I mean, he did it on a motorcycle, on the side of a motorcycle. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But no, I'm buying my own. Yeah, I'm buying my own little hand engraving tools anyway. So I'm going to learn. so I could start doing that myself.
Yeah, that'd be super tight. Well, thank you for coming on, man. This was a great
Yeah, man.
conversation, and I'll definitely put your social media handles in the YouTube description and everything so people can follow you and check out your stuff.
Heck yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you next time.